The armory feels silent.
Not the comfortable silence of routine work, but the sudden, suspended quiet that happens when something impossible is unfolding before your eyes. 23 hardened operators stood frozen mid-motion, tools hanging in their grips.
Jaws slightly open as they watched.
A woman in civilian clothes do what their best technicians couldn't. She wasn't supposed to be here.
She had no badge, no credentials visible, no introduction from command, just rolled up sleeves, steady hands,
and a toolbox that looked older than most of the men in the room.
The weapon she was working on had been deemed unfixable by 3 separate armorers. But now, in her hands, it was coming back to life, and nobody could look away. The desert training facility existed in that strange military space where official records ended and operational
reality began. Buildings wore numbers instead of names.
Personnel moved with purpose, but without insignia that identified their units. Questions about who worked where were met with polite redirections.
This was where elite units came when standard training wasn't enough.
The maintenance bay occupied the facility's northeast corner, a converted aircraft hangar that now housed workbenches, parts lockers,
and enough firepower to outfit a small army.
The air smelled of gun oil,
metal shavings, and the peculiar electrical scent that comes from equipment
pushed beyond manufacturer specifications. Sergeant First Class Marcus Chun stood at the main workbench,
staring at the disassembled rifle before
him with the expression
of a man who'd run out of ideas.
Around him, the usual controlled chaos of a busy armory continued.
Operators cycled through, dropping off damaged gear and picking up replacements,
each interaction following the
practiced efficiency of people who understood that equipment failures could cost lives. Still fighting that ghost? His teammate called from across the bay. Marcus did respond immediately. The rifle in question, a custom-built designated marksman weapon, had developed a problem that defied logic. It would shoot perfectly for the first magazine,
then gradually lose accuracy until it was throwing rounds in random directions. 3 different armorers had examined it. The barrel had been replaced twice.
The action had been rebuilt completely. Nothing worked.
I'm starting to think this thing is cursed, Marcus finally admitted,
carefully reassembling the bolt carrier group for the 7th time that week.
Maybe you need to sacrifice a chicken over it, another operator suggested.
Earning scattered laughter from the handful of men within earshot.
Marcus was about to respond when the base side door opened. She entered without announcement, without escort, without the usual paperwork shuffle that accompanied civilian contractors. Just walked in like she owned the place, carrying a weathered leather case and wearing an expression that gave away absolutely nothing. The bay didn't fall silent. Not yet. Most operators didn't even notice her arrival.
Too focused on their own equipment to pay attention to what looked like another bureaucratic intrusion into operational space. She moved to an empty workbench in the corner, set down her case, and began unpacking tools with methodical precision. Each instrument was placed exactly where she wanted it, creating a workspace that looked more like a surgical theater than a gun shop. Marcus noticed her then,
mainly because the way she arranged her tools reminded him of his grandfather, a master gunsmith who had believed that proper preparation
was 90% of successful repairs.
"Can I help you?"
he called across the bay, more curious than concerned. She glanced up briefly, met his eyes for exactly 1 second, then returned her attention to her tools without speaking.
The message was clear. She was here to work, not chat.
Marcus exchanged glances with his nearest teammate, who shrugged with the universal gesture of "not my problem." For the next 20 minutes, she simply organized. Tools arranged by size and function.
Components sorted into shallow trays.
A worn notebook open to a page covered in precise technical sketches.
She moved with the quiet confidence
of someone who had performed this preparation
ritual thousands of times.
Then she stood, surveyed the bay's main equipment board, and walked directly to Marcus's workbench.
She pointed at the problematic rifle.
"That one," she said.
2 words.
Her first communication. Marcus blinked in surprise. "How did you know that one has problems?"
She didn't answer. Instead, she simply waited.
Hand extended slightly.
The universal gesture requesting permission to examine the weapon.
Something in her absolute stillness made Marcus decide to trust his instincts. He handed over the rifle. What happened next would be discussed in that armory for years.
She carried the rifle to her corner workbench
with the careful handling of someone
transporting a patient to an operating room, set it down gently, pulled a headlamp over her forehead,
adjusted the beam to exact brightness. Then she began to work.
Her field stripping technique was unusual. Not wrong, just different. She started from the rear of the weapon, working forward,
removing components in an order that Marcus had never seen before.
Each part was examined under magnification,
held up to the light at precise angles.
tested with fingertips that seemed to read information invisible to normal inspection. By now, several operators had noticed something interesting was happening. Work continued, but attention kept drifting toward the corner bench where the silent
Woman was conducting what looked like an autopsy on Marcus's problem weapon. Who is she? Someone whispered. No idea.
Is she supposed to be here? Must be. Security would have stopped her. The speculation continued in hushed tones while she worked in absolute silence.
She examined the barrel for exactly 90 seconds, using a bore scope that looked like it cost more than the rifle itself.
Made some notation in her one notebook.
Moved to the action,
Disassembled it completely.
spreading components across her work mat in a pattern.
That seemed random until Marcus realized it represented
The weapon's internal relationships.
each part positioned relative to its neighbors in the mechanical sequence.
Then she found it. Her hand stopped moving, froze in position.
She leaned closer, adjusting her headlamp, focusing on something so small
that nobody else could.
see what had captured her attention. With tweezers, she extracted a component no larger than a grain of rice, held it up to the light, rotated it slowly.
There, she said quietly, speaking to the part rather than to any audience.
Marcus moved closer, unable to contain his curiosity. What is it? She set down the component and pulled out what looked like a jeweler's loop, studied the part under high magnification.
Then she reached for her notebook and sketched rapidly, her pencil creating technical drawings with the precision of a CAD program. Your gas tube has a microfracture, she finally explained, still not looking at Marcus.
It's only visible under magnification and only manifests
When the metal heats and expands. First magazine runs fine because everything is cold,
as the system heats. The fracture opens microscopically.
causing inconsistent gas pressure and erratic cycling.
Marcus felt his jaw drop. They had replaced the barrel twice. Nobody had thought to examine the gas tube at that level of detail.
The fracture is in a stress concentration point created by improper
Manufacturing, she continued.
still sketching in her notebook.
The part will fail completely within another 500 rounds.
It needs replacement with a properly manufactured component.
Not the standard issue part.
She finally looked up at Marcus. Do you have alternative manufacturers available? Marcus nodded slowly, mind racing through their parts inventory. We have some custom builders we work with. Good. This one requires a gas tube with modified wall thickness and better quality control.
On the bent radius, she tapped her sketch. These specifications. The armory had gone completely quiet now. Every operator in the bay had stopped working.
All eyes were on the corner bench.
Where this mysterious
Woman had just diagnosed in 30 minutes.
what 3 expert armorers had missed over 3 weeks. The facility's master sergeant materialized from his office.
Drawn by the unusual silence in what was normally a loud, active workspace.
He was a thick-built man with 26 years of service, known for missing nothing and tolerating less. What's going on out here? He demanded, scanning the frozen bay. Marcus turned, trying to formulate an explanation that wouldn't sound insane. The woman saved him the trouble. She picked up the damaged gas tube, walked directly to the master sergeant,
And handed it to him along with her jeweler's loop.
examine the bend point under magnification. She said calmly, "You'll see the fracture pattern."
The master sergeant's expression suggested.
He was about to deliver a speech about civilians, wandering into restricted areas, but something in her absolute certainty made him pause. He took the loop.
Examine the part. His expression changed.
"I'll be damned," he muttered. "How did nobody catch this?"
Because nobody was looking at the correct scale, she replied simply. The damage is below the resolution of standard inspection techniques. The master sergeant studied her for a long moment.
"Who are you?"
Someone who fixes things, she answered.
Meeting his stare without flinching, a moment of tension hung in the air.
Then the master sergeant made a decision that would change everything.
"What else can you fix?" he asked.
She turned, surveyed the equipment board mounted on the bay's main wall. It displayed weapon serial numbers awaiting repair, color-coded by priority.
Her eyes moved across the board with the speed of someone reading familiar language. She pointed to 3 entries marked in red, critical failures.
Equipment that had been awaiting parts or expertise for weeks.
Those 3.
2 hours each. I'll need access to your specialty parts inventory and a quiet workspace. The master sergeant made a
Decision that violated approximately 15 different protocols. The back bay is yours.
Sergeant Chen. You're her assistant.
Everyone else, back to work. But pay attention. I think we're all about to learn something. The back bay was smaller, quieter, designed for precision work that required focus.
She set up her workspace with the same methodical care, then turned to Marcus. "Bring me the first weapon." The accurized M4 with the intermittent failure to extract.
Marcus retrieved the rifle from secure storage.
This one had been plaguing them for 2 months. It would run perfectly for days, then suddenly start experiencing extraction failures with no apparent pattern. She examined the rifle for less than 5 minutes before identifying the problem.
Your extractor spring has been replaced with incorrect specifications.
The replacement part has 0.03 inches less free length than the original, which reduces tension below minimum threshold.
Under normal conditions, it works.
But when carbon fouling reaches critical mass,
the reduced tension becomes insufficient to maintain extraction reliability. She pulled a small plastic case from her kit, selected a spring that looked identical to the one in the rifle, and swapped them. Test fire 100 rounds, she instructed. The problem won't recur.
Marcus stared at the rifle, then at her. "How did you know the spring length was wrong?" "Because I've seen this failure mode 47 times, she replied, already moving to the next weapon. "It's a common error in remanufactured parts from secondary suppliers trying to save.
0.003 cents per unit.
The second weapon was a precision rifle with mysterious accuracy degradation. She diagnosed it even faster.
Your crown is asymmetrical.
Someone attempted to recut it without proper tooling and created
an uneven gas release pattern. The bullets are exiting the barrel with inconsistent spin stabilization. She pulled out a tool Marcus had never seen before.
something that looked like a combination of a reamer and a micrometer.
Worked on the rifle's crown for exactly 12 minutes.
Then handed it back.
Test at 600 meters.
You'll see submo performance restored.
The third weapon was the most complex. A specialized system with an electronic trigger that had developed erratic behavior. She disassembled it completely. Examined the electronics with a multimeter.
Then pointed to a component smaller than a fingernail.
This capacitor is operating outside temperature specifications. It's Chinese manufacture with inadequate thermal management.
Replace it with a military spec component rated for extended temperature range.
She pulled the exact
replacement part from her kit.
as if she had known she would need it. By now, word had spread beyond the armory. The facility's senior leadership had gathered in the observation area, watching through the bays windows as this unidentified woman performed what looked like magic but was
Clearly deep technical expertise. Someone find out who she is. The facility commander muttered to his aide.
"We're trying, sir,
She signed the visitor log.
but the name doesn't match anyone in our contractor database."
Then how did she get through security? Unknown, sir. The gate guards remember her entering, but they can't recall who authorized it.
On the workshop floor,
She had finished with the 3 critical repairs and was now examining other weapons that Marcus brought to her attention.
each diagnosis was rapid,
Precise and accompanied by detailed explanations that operators
scrambled to record in notebooks. Your gas block is misaligned by 0.005 inches.
invisible to the naked eye, but sufficient to create cycling inconsistencies.
This trigger group
Has been assembled with parts from 3 different manufacturers.
the tolerances stack incorrectly, creating an unsafe sear engagement. Your suppressor has a baffle strike waiting to happen. See this microscopic bulge? The mount isn't concentric to the bot axis.
4 hours later, she had worked through 12
Weapons that have been classified as
unfixable or awaiting specialist intervention. Every single diagnosis had been accurate.
every repair had been completed to perfection. The back bay looked like a technical briefing had exploded across the workbenches.
Operators crowded around, notebooks open, asking questions that she answered with patient precision.
How do you detect misalignment at that scale? Why does gas tube length affect accuracy? What's the relationship between bolt velocity and extraction reliability? She answered every question
Explaining the mechanical relationships and material properties.
that governed weapon function. Her teaching was clear, methodical, stripped of ego or condescension. Marcus found himself learning more in 4 hours than he had in the previous 4 years. As afternoon faded toward evening,
The facility commander finally entered the bay directly. The room snapped to attention automatically, but he waved them back to work. Ma'am, he addressed her directly.
I need to know who you are and how you acquired this level of expertise. She set down the tool she was holding.
Turned to face him. For the first time since arriving, she smiled slightly.
I'm someone who learned.
From the best gunsmiths in 3 countries, she said quietly. Someone who spent 20 years studying weapon systems at the molecular level. Someone who believes that every tool deserves to function as its designer intended.
That's not an answer. The commander pressed gently.
It's the only answer I'm offering, she replied, still meeting his eyes steadily.
A moment of tension stretched between them. Then the commander did something that surprised everyone in the bay. He extended his hand.
Thank you for your expertise, he said formally. If you're willing to return, we would consider it a privilege to continue learning from you.
She shook his hand once firmly.
I go where I'm needed, she said simply.
When you need me again, I'll know.
She began packing her tools with the same methodical care she had used to arrange them.
Each instrument returned to its exact position in her case. Every component accounted for. Nothing left behind except knowledge. Marcus approached as she was closing her case.
You never told us your name, he said.
She paused, hand on the case latches. Names are less important than work, she replied. Remember what you learned today. Apply it correctly.
Teach others. That's more valuable than any name. She picked up her case and walked toward the bay exit.
Every operator in the room stood at attention as she passed.
Not because regulations required it,
but because true expertise commands respect that no rank can purchase. At the door, she paused.
Turned back for one final comment. Still remembers how it's treated, she said clearly.
Treat your weapons with precision and respect.
And they'll return the favor when your life depends on it. Then she was gone. Security footage later showed her leaving the facility through the main gate.
The guards remembered her exiting but couldn't recall any details beyond that.
She had arrived in no vehicle that anyone could identify and departed the same way.
48 hours later,
a package arrived at the
facility addressed to Sergeant First Class Marcus Chun. Inside
was a worn technical manual on advanced arming techniques, annotated in the margins with notes in precise handwriting, and a simple card that read, "For the student who pays attention." The manual's cover page bore a signature,
but the name had been deliberately smudged,
leaving only the first initial visible. An elegant, the C.
In the armory, her methods became standard practice.
Operators began examining equipment at the microscopic level she had demonstrated. Repair success rates climbed dramatically. The number of weapons classified as unfixable dropped to nearly zero. And occasionally, when a truly impossible problem emerged, someone would find a solution on their workbench the next morning, accompanied by a brief note in that same precise handwriting,
explaining the fix in technical detail. She never returned in person, but her presence remained in every properly torqued fastener, every correctly aligned component, every weapon that performed exactly as its designer had intended.
Marcus was training a new armorer,
walking him through the systematic, diagnostic approach that had become
standard since that extraordinary day. The key is understanding that every symptom has a root cause,
Marcus explained,
sounding remarkably like the woman whose name he had never learned.
Your job is to trace the symptom back
through the mechanical
chain until you find where the system deviates from design specifications. The young armorer nodded, absorbing the lesson. Did you learn this in training? He asked.
Marcus smiled slightly. No, I learned it from someone who understood that true
expertise isn't about showing off what you know. It's about making everyone around you better at what they do.
He picked up a rifle from the incoming repair rack, examining it with the systematic approach that had become second nature.
Let me show you what to look for, he said,
beginning the same methodical inspection
process that had transformed their entire operation. In the corner of the bay, barely visible unless you knew where to look,
someone had permanently
mounted a small brass plaque on the workbench where she had
performed those first miraculous diagnoses.
It bore only 3 words: precision, knowledge, respect. Nobody knew who had installed it,
but everyone understood its meaning. True mastery doesn't announce itself with credentials or rank insignia. It reveals itself through work that speaks louder than words, through knowledge shared freely,
through problems solved that others declared impossible.
She had been in that armory for less than 8 hours, but her impact would last as long as anyone who learned from her remained in service.
And somewhere, in another facility facing impossible equipment challenges,
someone would arrive with no introduction, no credentials,
no explanation beyond the quiet confidence that comes from genuine expertise.
Because that's what true masters do.
They appear where they're needed most, share what others desperately need to learn,
and vanish before anyone can trap them in the bureaucratic recognition they never sought.
The work remains, the knowledge spreads, the legacy grows, and somewhere in the shadows of military installations worldwide,
an expert with one tools and
infinite patience continues fixing what others believe is broken beyond repair,
teaching anyone humble enough to watch and learn,
leaving every workshop better than she found it.
Not all heroes wear uniforms. Some wear rolled up sleeves and carry toolboxes older than their students.
And their expertise changes everything.
If this story resonated with you, hit the like button and subscribe to Silent Warriors for more stories where quiet
Mastery transforms impossible situations into lessons that last forever.
we bring you tales of unsung heroes whose expertise speaks louder than rank,
Whose knowledge solves the unsolvable.
and whose legacy lives in everyone they teach.
Subscribe now, because the most powerful warriors are often the ones you never see coming.